It's time to check your money with America's money maven, Vicki Brackens. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corp., member SIPC. Vicki, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, George. As you know, I've been off, I guess for about 2 weeks or so. Okay, a little bit over that, okay, as far as our money moments were concerned. But before I get into that, I want to thank everyone for their comments and calls and thumbs up and all those types of things for the segment that we did last week on This is Vicki Brackens.
Oh, you heard a lot of feedback?
I heard a
People
lot
were like
of
all
people.
over you?
Yes, okay. Heard a lot of feedback from that, and it's really, really appreciated. I was surprised, in fact, by how much feedback, but I did hear also, can you believe this? Because there's some people who stream me down in Dallas, but down in Texas, where I'm from, they said, Vicki, you forgot something. You didn't say something correctly, so let me fix that now.
Family matters.
Family
Get that
matters,
done.
exactly. So I spoke of the fact that I grew up in Henderson, Texas, but I did not make it clear that as a teenager we moved to Dallas.
Oh.
Okay. And so when I said I was in the all-city band, I should have said in Dallas, Texas.
In Dallas.
Okay, and in the marching band in Dallas,
In
Texas.
Dallas.
At the South Oak Cliff High School.
Oh, I know
which
that.
Which is a big deal, okay, in Dallas and across
Pull
Texas.
that mic closer to you a little bit.
Because of the fact that they are and have been known for many years, but particularly at that time, as the state champion football team.
Okay, so the South
Oak Cliff, Golden Bears marching band in Dallas, Texas.
You also sent me something about your dad. Tell me about your dad.
Yeah, no, that was my grandfather.
Your grandfather.
And my grandfather, who was in the Texas Police Association, Texas Negro Police Association. He was the president for 20 years and very instrumental in how police officers of color were viewed in Texas and across the country. Okay.
Oh, hey.
In fact, he was one of the first police detectives, black police detectives in the country.
What was his name?
Brown L. Brackens. Senior. Okay. All right. So now we got, I think, everything cleaned up from last week. Okay. Now, we were going to, if you recall, when we left.
Yes.
As far as our money moments, my last statement or our last conversation was around the fact that statistics and research were showing that African-American households that actually ascended to middle class and upper middle class status were finding that their children in the next generation were actually sliding back 1 to 2 quartiles in the from their economic standing.
Yeah.
Okay? And we said when we came back, we would really start to dig into this and to look at some of the strategies that would be needed in order to prevent that from continuing to happen. And my ending statement was, we will have what? Zero, no more.
That's right.
And that zero, no more campaign, we would start that when we came back. So to make sure we set the framework for that properly, I just want to go back actually 26 weeks. Can you believe that?
Has it been a year? No, that's half a year.
It's a half a year, 26 weeks. On some of the key points that we have discussed. First one being, we want to do what each year?
Increase net worth.
Increase net worth. Second thing was, what was our understanding of what's important about money to me? Okay, so you need to sit down with your spouse or your significant other or yourself in the mirror and have that conversation. What's important about money to me? But if we're going to talk about what's important about money to me, we also have to understand what money is. Our definition of money was, money is a claim on human labor. Looking at that claim on human labor, we developed a pyramid. You remember the pyramid, George?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, I can say, yes, I do.
Okay. And the pyramid being the levels of progress toward wealth building.
That's right.
Starting out with poor.
And then broke.
And then what was the next one?
Go ahead.
Stable. Prosperous. Rich, and then wealthy. Okay, with wealthy being the definition of being able to live your life the way you wanted to with the resources that you have. So we looked at that pyramid, and then we went to the next element of how to build net worth and not start at zero each generation, and that was organization. Mm-hmm. Going through and finding all your stuff.
Yeah.
And making sure that you understood what it did, who was it for, who controlled it, who owned it, and what happens to it if something happens to me. That was really a conversation that I broke down primarily around the issue of estate planning. We use the word estate planning, and people get really kind of nervous, so we just call it organizing our stuff.
Right, okay? Organizing our stuff. And you also described a little bit later on as an exit strategy. What's your exit strategy?
That's where we go. What's the exit strategy? And I'm going to put a little plug in here at this point in time. Most of you probably saw on either Facebook or LinkedIn or through Eventbrite that I am working with the 100 Black Men on Monday, this coming Monday, the 7th and the 14th.
Tomorrow night.
No? Yes, tomorrow night.
Yes,
the 7th.
It is tomorrow night.
I can't believe that. Okay.
You've been running so much, you forgot that it's tomorrow night.
Exactly. Okay, the 7th and the 14th on discussions around how to prepare that exit strategy, but understanding that the exit strategy starts many, many years before we actually exit.
What time tomorrow night?
6 p.m.
And it's going to be at the Southside Innovation Center?
That is correct. Okay.
Which is 2610 South Salina Street in Syracuse. And by the way, that's on the bus line, so if it's getting around, you could get there too. We often don't talk about public transportation, but we got some really good public transportation.
We really, really do. Okay, so I'm hoping and believing that there's going to be an overflow crowd tomorrow evening. Mm-hmm. That's a 2-part series. So then we went from the exit strategy to really looking at how do we define, not only do we want to increase our net worth each year, but how do we define that formula? And that formula was driven around financial assets plus human capital equals total net worth. And you should by now have gone through and calculated your human capital. The human capital calculator is still on George's website. So if you haven't done that, please go out and calculate human capital, because the human capital element, particularly early on in life, is the biggest asset we have. Why? Because time is the biggest calculator against your income over your lifetime to create the biggest bag of cash of human capital. But in order for that human capital and that formula to really work, we have to do what? We need to learn how to retain it.
Yeah.
Retaining that big bag of cash, retaining the human capital plus your financial assets, so that you have the human capital, you had your retention ratio that will determine exactly where you are and what's going to be passed on to the next generation. All right. That was 26 weeks.
Yes.
In a nutshell.
I
did that for a reason, because as we start looking at specifics on what we're going to do around zero, no more, this is the new mantra. Increase your net worth each year, because we want what? Zero, no more. Okay. So at this point in time, George, I think I'll take a breath and I'll say your plate is full.
Vicki Brackens, thank you so much. And Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corp. Member SIPC, America's Money Maven, Vicki Brackens.